Chapter 6 Reality Revealed. What the human being is best at doing is interpreting all new information so that their prior conclusions remain intact. Warren Buffett, business magnate. An abundance of evidence. Evidence from the laws and properties of the universe, along with many examples of uniquely human qualities, clearly points to a planned universe. Further independent confirmation comes from the study of computer systems and the controlled mental processes that are present in human beings, but absent in animals. Now that we have collected and reviewed the available information, we can arrive at an explanation for the nature and origin of our world and the universe beyond. Despite initial doubts, skepticism, or uncertainty, a correct conclusion is possible if there is sufficient relevant evidence. Evidence of an intentional act can sometimes be obvious when we look at observations that show up at a later time. When presented with a theory or claim, an inquiring skeptic will look for such evidence. The example of a cultivated garden in an isolated mountain meadow shows how a variety of evidence can collectively lead to the right conclusion. After careful consideration, the hikers confidently concluded that they had come across a deliberately planned garden plot. To prove a theory or claim, an investigation should include both direct and indirect evidence from each of the 5 main types of evidence: physical, documentary, testimonial, demonstrative, and scientific. Examining evidence from multiple independent sources, while carefully avoiding biases, will almost always lead to a correct conclusion. History shows that major advances in science frequently result from examining new evidence that initially appears to conflict with existing opinions. Recent scientific discoveries have led to a new, deeper understanding of the fundamental nature of the universe. Everything detected in the universe is made up of matter or energy or a combination of both. Modern physics has shown us that matter and energy can be converted from one to the other under certain conditions. The physical laws and properties of the universe control the interaction of matter and energy in a very specific way, allowing galaxies, stars, and planets, as well as life, to not only exist but persist over time. Because the universe maintains this stability, the universe is not an empty, lifeless void. Instead, the universe has exactly the right qualities for life to thrive on at least one planet. In the last century, scientists discovered that the universe is expanding at a rate sufficient to prevent everything in the universe from collapsing due to the force of gravity. This is yet another fortuitous aspect of the universe. 4 fundamental interactions, gravity, strong nuclear, weak nuclear, and electromagnetic, affect matter and energy. The interaction of these forces allows the process of nuclear fusion to occur. This is how radiant energy from stars, such as the sun, is possible. If not for the precise nature and extraordinary strength of the strong nuclear force, 2 or more protons could not exist in the nucleus of an atom, and the many stable chemical elements would not exist. Massive objects, such as stars and planets, exist only because of the precise nature and strength of gravity. The simplest form of a universe would consist of randomly distributed matter and/or energy, but little else. An architect or planner would be unlikely to devise such an uninteresting universe. When matter and energy interact and change form, variety within the universe is possible, and things become interesting. In a planned universe, the architect would incorporate interesting, complex features rather than create the simplest possible design. The universe is structured in a way that allows a large number of different types of matter, energy, and interactions to not only exist but persist over time. Amazingly, the universe also happens to contain a huge variety of life forms on at least one planet that we know of. The most fascinating and intriguing form of life would have the ability to make conscious choices and to design and create things. Despite so much evidence in favor of intentional planning and the lack of evidence for an alternative, some people still refuse to accept the idea that humankind occupies a special place in existence. However, the human race stands out as dramatically different from the more than 7 million species of animals on planet Earth. Human beings can think about what others are thinking. They are able to escape from their present point of view. They can imagine things as they will be in the future and as they have been in the past. They have an awareness of something else beyond our familiar day-to-day physical world. Human beings have discovered that there are things unseen that exist beyond the 5 physical senses of sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell. An example is subatomic particles and certain forms of electromagnetic radiation. They can imagine things as they will be in the future and as they have been in the past. They can understand the concept of cause and effect. Humans are also aware of their own mortality and understand that they have a limited amount of time on planet Earth. Most humans have a desire to be remembered favorably after they have died. The distant future, including the opinions of future generations, matters to them, despite knowing that they are mortal. They can distinguish right from wrong. Humans can design and create things. Their mental abilities and natural talents extend far beyond the basic needs of survival and propagation. Many uniquely human abilities, example the use of clothing or the ability to create and use fire, would obviously be of great benefit to animal survival, but not a single animal species has any of those abilities. One of the most amazing and profound of human attributes is the desire to discover truths about reality by asking questions about the world around them. Like other living things, humans observe and interact with what they find within their environs. But unlike animals, humans contemplate questions. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. Even chimpanzees, with a genome very close to that of humans, lack every one of the exceptional human mental abilities and natural talents. Why are human beings endowed with so many unique mental abilities and natural talents? Why do none of the animal species possess any of them? The human mind possesses a unique type of controlled mental processing ability not present in any other living thing. Like a computer system, all forms of life require a physical part and a non-physical software part to function. Operating system software handles basic internal functions. Application software handles interactions with the outside world. The application component can include both automatic processes and controlled processes. An automatic life software component works in all living things to ensure their survival. However, humans uniquely possess a controlled life software processing component in the form of controlled mental processes. Animals lack the controlled mental processes that allow human beings to study things, create things, and to make decisions after contemplating the possible consequences of those decisions. These controlled mental processes explain the vast difference between the behavior of human beings and animals. They also explain the presence of unique human qualities, such as being deliberative, poetic, inspired, contemplative, cultural, judgmental, or nostalgic. Each person has their own unique controlled mental processes, apparent from the huge variation in mental abilities and natural talents. Human beings are far more than just an advanced version of an animal species. The universe is like a machine, in which every piece must work together correctly, or the machine will not work at all. The evidence reveals a universe where physical laws and properties amazingly function in a way that supports stable and persisting forms of matter, energy, and even life. After considering the evidence and all possible explanations, there remain only 2 possibilities. Either the universe is the result of a deliberate and intentional plan, or it came from a spontaneous creation event that originated from nothing, yet somehow developed over time into a stable and long-lasting reality that we observe now. Scientists admit that the spontaneous creation idea is only plausible if a nearly infinite number of universes exist, and they have failed in their attempts to detect any evidence of these other universes. Which is more reasonable, that there are a nearly infinite number of vastly different but undetectable universes that spontaneously appear from nothing, or that the precisely tuned physical laws and properties of the universe are the result of an intentional plan? The evidence points to the latter. Some of the most educated people in the world refuse to accept the scientific data and other evidence that points to the intentionally planned universe. Some still insist that the universe must have somehow come about through pure chance. But where is the evidence? The truth is that there is none. How many impossible coincidences will it take to convince some naysayers of the truth? How many fortuitous apparent accidents of physics, astronomy, chemistry, and living things does it take? Despite the abundance of evidence in favor of intentional planning, many still hold on to the unsupported assumption that there is no universal plan. For many decades, numerous scientists have attempted to develop an idea or formulate a mathematical model to permit a no-plan version of reality. The only result has been the concept of a multiverse spontaneously appearing from nothing. The multiverse idea requires that each randomly appearing universe must somehow be undetectable from our own universe, since there is no experimental or observational evidence for their existence. This nearly infinite number of universes must have widely varying sets of physical properties so that at least some would be stable, long-lasting, and have properties necessary to support life. And at least one of these universes must be able to produce living things from inanimate matter through some unknown means. Most of these universes, having appeared from nothing, would be unstable and would eventually collapse, vanishing back into nothingness. Rather than an evidence-based explanation for the nature and origin of the universe, the multiverse proposal looks more like an imaginative storyline for a science fiction novel. If the great English writer H.G. Wells lived from 1866 to 1946, were still alive today, he could write a best-selling novel from these imaginative ideas to rival the other science fiction stories, The Time Machine, The Invisible Man, and The War of the Worlds. Recognizing our place in the well-planned universe. For many, the precise nature of the physical laws and properties of the universe provides sufficient evidence to conclude that the universe has been intentionally planned. However, additional evidence independently confirms the reality of the planned universe. Unique human qualities and controlled mental processes not seen in other forms of life exist because of special human life software. Moreover, the lack of any evidence for the only other alternative, namely spontaneous creation of a multiverse, leads to only one reasonable conclusion. Intentional planning is the only viable explanation for the nature and origin of the universe. Despite substantial evidence, there will be some who have difficulty accepting this conclusion. In nearly every case, this is due to one or more of the following three aspects of human nature. The first, taking the path of least difficulty. Evaluating evidence is not fast or easy. Little time and effort is needed to simply maintain a present point of view or accept what others claim to be true. Second, social influence and peer pressure. There is a powerful desire in human nature to be a member of the majority. People will sometimes continue to believe an assertion or theory despite contrary evidence when supported by a community of like-minded individuals. Social pressure from colleagues in an academic field can be a major obstacle to accepting ideas not already established in the mind of their peers. Third, holding on to long-established opinions. Once an opinion has become well established, it is often difficult to change, even when presented with new relevant information. In their book, The Web of Belief, by Willard V. Quinn and J.S. Julian, described this well. The desire to be right and the desire to have been right are two desires, and the sooner we separate them, the better off we are. The desire to be right is the thirst for truth. On all counts, both practical and theoretical, there is nothing but good to be said for it. The desire to have been right, on the other hand, is the pride that goeth before a fall. It stands in the way of our seeing we were wrong, and thus blocks the progress of our knowledge. View the evidence while keeping these in mind. Even an inquiring skeptic must be careful to avoid these possible impediments. The search to find the true nature of our world and the universe has revealed a universal plan. Where there is a plan, there is also a purpose. An intentionally planned universe requires a planner and architect. The implication of these results is a subject for a different book. It is my hope that the evidence and conclusions presented here will provide the impetus for those who are curious to investigate further. As with other important things in life, it behooves each of us to investigate the evidence and to explore where it leads and what it might mean to our futures. The well-planned universe reveals that there is far more to our existence on our little blue planet than meets the eye.
This concludes the reading of The Well-Planned Universe, authored by Kenneth G. Davis, recorded by arrangement with Kendrick Recorded Books. This book was read by Luke Kendrick and published in 2023.